On this episode of Monday EV Medley, we continue on with our steering column and the zombie verter. So, in the last episode, we built a simple Dingleberry 3-wire harness just to get the ignition to turn on our zombie and put it in run mode. And today, we're going to build on that. I promised you that we're going to build our harness and our fuse block, and so today, we'll see what's in the bag. Before I open this smiley bag, let me just say that I'm usually not a fan of aftermarket parts. They're just junk. And especially this manufacturer called Dorman. I'm not sure if they're worldwide, but in the States, Dorman just puts out complete junk, and it's usually in the self-help section. But this is an aftermarket product, and it is a Dorman product, and it's maybe the only one that I like. So here it is, standard estándar. This is a fuse block, and actually, Greg bought 3 of them. So let's open them up, and I'll show you what our intentions are with these. Okay, so as you can see, it is a 4 fuse holder. This is just made out of plastic. It's actually hefty. It's pretty strong. It comes with a bus bar, okay? So this bus bar is what is used for input usually. So if you want to send a ground to all the fuses, you can just clip it to one of these and it will spread the ground to all 4. If you want to send 12 volts like we're going to, it will send 12 volts. So we will take the permanent power. Today's focus is going to be on adding a fuse block with 4 fuses for permanent power for the VCU and any other components on the car that need permanent power. Let's open another one and I'll show you why I like these. Think Legos, okay? These things are like Legos. Let me know in the comments if you used these things before. But these are really cool because they will connect to each other. Now, I don't want to connect them permanently right now because they're a pain to separate. But you can expand on. Let's say you start off with 4 fuses and you say, well, shit, I need to add a 5th fuse. What do I do? So you add a second one. You can add them to either side. It doesn't matter. And it's really infinite. I mean, I bought 3, and you can go from 4 fuses to 8 fuses to 12 fuses with 3 of these. So we would just add another one, and then we'll just add another one. When we connect these, we're just connecting plastic. There is no metal bus bar that goes across multiple ones. So what you do is you insert this into each one. Hope you guys can see this. And then you'll just run wire. So one wire can come in, let's say, to this one, and then you'll do a jumper wire and then jumper wire, and then all these would be 12 volts positive permanent power if that's what you wanted. So let's go over our game plan. We're going to be adding functionality to what we already have. Every video will build on the prior videos. So first, let's review. This is our input to our ignition system, and that stays in place. All the other wires stay in place, but I just removed them to declutter, right? And what we have been doing so far is connecting with alligator clips, okay? And that's fine, but I want to show you another option of how to connect to a bench power supply. And also, we are going to be adding another hot lead. So this lead will run to the battery. Pretend this is a car battery. The bench power supply is a car battery. That will stay in place with its inline fuse, and its job is to feed the ignition. That's it, okay? Then there's going to be a second lead, perhaps a lower gauge wire. The gauges are how we talk about thickness of wires. The bigger the number, the skinnier the wire. It's insane. So if that's say a 12, this would be like a 10, okay? What we're gonna do here is we're going to just crimp on this hot lead to this bus bar. It doesn't matter which one of the four. We're going to crimp this on, and then we're going to pop it in the fuse block. Okay? So let's do that. I have my crimper here. This is a two-leg 18600. Seems to do a decent job. Hopefully I don't jinx myself as I say that. So with this tool, we may be kind of limited to which ones we can crimp into because they'll get in the way. So I'll try to do an end one. And we'll just feed this through. And crimp it down. Bob's your uncle. And then what we're going to do is we will feed this inside there. Hopefully I'll do this correctly. And not look too silly doing it. Am I already doing this wrong? It's been a while, fellas. It's just been a minute since I used these. Okay, so it's popped in there. And this whole chunk is our hot lead. And then let's say we want to add something on here like a radio. So we would take one of these singles and put it in here. And the wire from the back of this one would run to our radio. So this being a permanent fuse block, the way I think of what is permanent, think about your car. What do you think is permanently wired on your car? Okay? We know that our VCU will be on here. That's going to be the first fuse because our zombie version needs permanent power. And right now it's getting it through one of these types of inline fuses. But we're going to eliminate that. So yeah, we're going to eliminate the inline fuse and use a fuse in here now. Another thing that uses permanent power on your car, believe it or not, is brakes. So without the key in the ignition, if you step on your brake pedal, for safety reasons obviously, the brake lights should light up, okay? So brakes are also on here. And the way I like to think of it, what would be on the permanent block, is anything that has its own on and off switch. So some of the things are kind of tricky, but if you think about them, they do have on and off switches. One of them is a cigarette lighter. A cigarette lighter doesn't really have like a human-like switch, but you would have to push in the cigarette lighter, so that switches it on, if you will. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about USB ports. And radio has its own knob, and a brake pedal actually has a switch. It has this upside down switch, what I call it, hanging above the pedal. We'll get to all of that. So this is laying the foundation for permanent power to our zombie verter. The next one on line here will be permanent power to our brake pedal, okay? So, and this runs in addition to the lead to the ignition. This is why I'm doing this way. I don't want these linked at all. They were linked and then branched off into two later on in the OEM implementation. And I'm just gonna do home runs right to the battery. But what I wanna show you is that you don't have to use alligator clips on your bench power supplies. And I'm sure a lot of you know this. But these doodads, at least on some models, unscrew. Get out of the way. Don't be so negative. And that's just a stud. And then we can take our doodad, our ring terminal, put it over that stud, and screw this back on. So this is simulating literally me doing this later on to the car battery positive terminal, okay? There we go. And the other one, get the negative out of the way. We can still use both. We can still use the one that has this little plugulator, and that will supply 12 volts to our ignition switch. And then this one here in parallel, see that? Will have permanent power. Right now it's just sitting there. It's saying, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play. We're gonna add a single in here, and that single will run to our zombie. Okay, so if we recap, this was just a little short positive lead that went on pin 56, the last pin here. The lid goes on top, and this is 1 through 28, 29 through 56. The last one is positive permanent power. So we are eliminating this fuse. So if we were just to make this disappear, we would take one end of this, plug it into here, and the other one into the VCU without this black fuse holder fuse in it, okay? So I simply have a lead here that one end will plug in here and the other one will get crimped on to the individual fuse holder, okay? So I'm going to crimp that on now. Sometimes what I do with these skinnier wires is I bend the wire back on itself to give it a little more meat to grab on. I'm not sure if that is the right thing to do. And this is a double crimper on this one. Hopefully I can do this on camera and not look too silly willy. Sometimes I'm not too proud to crimp it on a bigger opening and then follow it up with a tighter one. Not even sure if you guys are getting any of that. Oh, it's still slid out, but we'll get it. So I just didn't go small enough, I guess, on that top one. Not paying attention to the wire sizes. That's actually a good crimp. Hopefully you guys can see that in semi-focus. Let me see if I can tighten this one. And there's tricks that you can do. Sometimes I'll put heat shrink on the end of this wire just to give it more meat, to crimp it in there better. Okay, this is sort of maybe a temporary throwaway type of build, and I'll redo it for the car just with the right lengths, or maybe I'll keep it, I'm not sure yet. So now we need to feed this in here to the top one, because I want the top one to be VCU. Just push that in there, and it's gonna go click, and it clicked. Very nice. So power will come in here, and from here it will run to the VCU. We will add a fuse. Let me go find a 1 ampere. All right, I can't believe I actually found a 1 amp fuse. This is gray, I believe, if they're color coded. And these are what I would call standard size, and it bugs me when people put their fuses in upside down. So let's see if I can just slide this in here and not look like a full, oh, beautiful, look at that. Wish it was a different color so it stood out, but whatever. So there's our first fuse. It's for the VCU permanent power right here. We are going to, hopefully in every video, wire up the whole thing and fire it up and prove that it worked. I don't want to get too far into making changes and then go to test and find out something isn't working. So let me make a spaghetti mess out here with more wires and wire everything up. Okay, so we're going to start by giving the VCU a ground. That is pin 55. We should all know this by now. I'm still doing the individual wires just so it's easier to present and explain rather than plugging in a big bulky header. And then this is just going to the black lead of the bench power supply, and this is for ground. This is preset for 13 volts. Okay, so if we review the Zombie, it gets a ground, okay, has a ground, and then we deal with what I'm going to start calling the Holy Trinity. These are all 12 volts power. So it's permanent, it's ignition, and it's start. So we got our permanent on here on pin 56. We are going to do ignition, which Volkswagen uses black. That doesn't sit very well with me, but so be it. We're gonna make that ignition. And ignition is on pin 15. First one on the top row, 1 through 14, 15 through 28, okay? And Volkswagen uses black with red stripe as start. So we're gonna put that on the, what are you doing? Okay. And these haven't changed, so these still have fuses on them, okay? They don't belong on the permanent fuse block. These are not permanent. And this goes on pin 54, so I counted backwards: 56, 55, 54, 53, 52. Come on, you. 56, 55, 54, 52. All right, hopefully I done did it. Sorry guys, I keep walking behind the camera, and that thing I hate more than presenting a perfect Professor Kelly-like explanation of something to find out I forgot to press record. I mean, it's never happened to me, but I hear it happens to some people. So now we're going to turn on our permanent power. This is a car battery, it just got turned on, okay? So that is on, and this whole box is right now only feeding the Zombie, so it's drawing 0.12 amps, 120 milliamps, maybe that's how you call it. Now we're going to turn on the ignition switch. Hopefully it's all in the shot. So we turn the ignition switch to on. And I should have my laptop out here, duh. And now we click it to start. I can't tell what's going on. This has lights on it. If I took the lid off, no matter what position we're on in there, once this has permanent power, that would have LEDs, so it wouldn't tell me much. Don't move that when it's on, he said. Let's turn this off. Let's bring out a laptop. Let's do a quick test and wrap up this video. So we're starting with a clean canvas here. First thing we're going to do is making sure the ignition is off. We're going to turn on our battery power supply. So this is the car battery. We walked into the garage. The car battery was in the car. This is getting permanent power all the time, 24/7, okay? While it's doing that, it's advertising its network, so we're going to just check. There's no reason why it wouldn't be there, and sure enough, FairyLink is here. No internet connection, that's fine, but it is connected. So then we open up a browser, and that puts us at the Open Inverter Software page. This is the menu system for the Zombie. So what we want to do is we want to go to Spot Values. We go to Spot Values, and what we're interested in is watching the operational mode, up mode. Currently the value is off. So we can turn on the ignition, refresh this page manually, put this thing in start, momentary start, refresh this page, watch it go to run. But they have a really nice feature, which is auto refresh. So we check this box for auto. We have to click refresh to put it in refresh mode. And now it's constantly refreshing itself. Now all we have to do is put the ignition switch on in the ignition position. So it's on. No change to operational mode. That's fine. That's how it works. Click on start. And that changed to run. Okay? Actually, I got to see it say pre-charge for a split second there. Maybe the first time I saw that. But it went to run. That's exactly what we want. So the start is, what is the word I'm looking for? Not similar. Same as run, okay? I forget the word. Synonymous with run. Okay, now we're going to turn off the ignition and the up mode change to off. Very nice, very simple. That's it for today. All we're gonna do is just these small breakout sessions and add another Lego or another piece to the puzzle, you know, every chance we get, every other night or so, until we build up a working, sort of a mini harness and fuse block, relay block to drive the car safely, okay? So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to add a second fuse block on here, but it is going to be for the ignition on. So I'll show you how to wire that. So stick around.